Welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Paco LeBron. This is the place to learn how to run your MSP, whether you're a nimble MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my partner in crime, Miss Nancy Henriquez, Head of Community over at MSP Unplugged. Nancy, how are you today?
I'm doing really good.
Fantastic. It's a great Monday over here in Salt Lake City, but I am super excited to introduce a very good friend of mine. This gentleman has been around in the channel, has doing great things over at a parent company that I am involved with. It is Mr. Ryan McGill, Chief Experience Officer over at Summit Holdings, which essentially means he's the Chief Experience Officer for all things and everything inside of all those great portfolio companies under that view. And we're laughing because we just know how that day-to-day goes over on our end. But Ryan, great to have you on the episode. I don't think we've had you on the podcast before, have we?
I don't think so, but thank you for having me.
I
Really
appreciate
great to be here. Appreciate
No,
it.
I just felt it was timely. Today there was the announcement of MSP as a Service, which is a sister company to MSP Owners Group, the strategic partnership with PAX 8 today. So if you have not heard, head over to crn.com or mspsaservice.com to find out the news for that. But I figured having you on, talk a little bit about kind of some of the transitions in your life, coming to the journey to this place here. Dare I say, maybe even a reunion that we have on this podcast.
That's right.
We'll leave it unsaid there. But, Ryan, I know you've been around for quite some time. You have experience with working with MSPs, a lot of great SaaS vendors over the years. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to this point in your journey today?
Happy to. So just kind of going back a little bit about my history. As Paco's mentioned, I've been around for quite a while now. All the way back in from a company called Zenith Infotech, all the way through to ConnectWise to where we are now. And so I've had the opportunity to really find out how to do things right and how to grow and how to become better as a leader and as a, just a great person, and how people can come to me and actually come for advice and try to help them along the way. Because it's not always about me. It's about the journey, and it's about helping other people as well. But yeah, I've been doing this for a while. Happy to give any kind of details you're looking for.
Perfect. So, you being over at Summit Holdings now, as Chief Experience Officer. So I've known you probably now for probably a good couple of years now. Yeah. And, what I always loved about you was your care for not only on the MSP side, but kind of the pain and anguish that sometimes they go through on just day-to-day troubleshooting or day-to-day things that an MSP will deal with.
Right.
The one that always sticks with me, and we always talk about this, we were at a conference, I think it may have been this conference last year, where our good co-host, Rick Smith, was dealing with a QuickBooks issue, and we all know how that goes. And I mean, the amount of time he spent on trying to solve that issue, it just cleared probably a half to almost a full day of him just required to attend to that versus some of the other things that he could have been taking care of. And I just remember the conversations that followed after that, like there has to be a better way for him to be able to do something like that. Or there has to be a better way for not to just dedicate all that time in regards to the troubleshooting. And that's a variety of things, right? Better processes, better standardizations, are there better ways of delegating that so that he can actually work and do different aspects of the business? And so that always stuck with me, because for you to really just dive in and understanding that a journey for an MSP, sometimes it's not always a straightforward line, but how can we make it better, right? And that was always something that I always appreciated. But can you tell us a little bit about like, why is that? Like, what has always stuck out to you on that, being able to look at something, just really harnessing and trying to cultivate an experience that's better for them?
Yeah, and I can use personal experience for all of that. Quite simply, go back, 14, 15 years when we were all MSPs just trying to figure this out. Software was a certain way. You only had certain tools. You couldn't do things that you can do even 5 or 10 years ago. And so going and looking back all the way back that far, and realizing how bad of an experience it was for a lot of MSPs trying to grow and trying to figure out their niche and how do they support customers, it was tough. And so thankfully there were companies that came along to help build that portfolio and say, okay, we understand RMM's tough. Let's help you with that. Or a PSA is tough. Answering tickets is tough. Being in help desk is tough. All of these companies that kind of built that path and helped go all the way through. That's what really stood out for me when we were talking about with Rick. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, he's been here for half of a day. How is this not better than it was 10 years ago?
Yeah.
And that was the question that I had. And I that's where Juan and I kind of connected, and we're like, there is a better way, and we have to find that way, right? That's the experience that we want, because nobody should have to do that, number one, on their own. There should be a support team to be able to help with that, and really kind of help focus in. But then just the idea of, is there a knowledge base that needs to exist, or is there some kind of support method that needs to exist? And that's really where MSP as a service came about, right? It's how do we help get you down that path as fast as possible so that you can make the most amount of revenue. And that's really what it comes down to. But as you mentioned, I care the most about the customer, the experience, and the end client. And I want to make sure that instead of it taking, unfortunately, a half a day, can we make it take 5 minutes so that that customer's back up and running? There's no blame. There's nothing like that. It's just, how do we learn from it and how do we become better?
So we used to work together,
Sure did.
hence reunion. I have to say that you were always like that calm presence. When everything was ablaze, you were the calm presence. So is there something in your background that perhaps maybe you were kind of used to putting out fires in some sort of way that has led you to putting out fires now for MSPs?
Sure is. So I've met with a lot of partners, and I'm going to bring up a story that we talked about last night. And one, this is going to come up, but it's a good story. Over my life, right, I've had a lot of partners that they're angry, and I completely understand their frustration. I don't get frustrated, right? I kind of refocus and I try to help. Okay, we're upset now. How do we get to an end goal? Let's get to that goal. It's going to be a tough path. We can argue. It's okay. I'm okay with that. I got big shoulders. I can carry it. Let's go. And the story of how Juan and I became such good friends it was that scenario, right? It was that story. He was having such a bad experience, and I was the level head in the room that said, Juan, it's okay. Let's get you fixed. Let's make this right? And he's always appreciated that, and I've always been appreciative to be able to do that for him in my life. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just something I'm born with. It's in me. I'm just a calm, cool, collected kind of person. It's just how it is.
Okay, but you were a firefighter in your past life.
Was.
How has that helped shape you and also be able to be in this position that you are now?
Run into a burning building. And no, it's okay. You're coming out alive, and it's fine. It's just another aspect of it, of just being able to look at a situation, figure out the best path to get through it, and make sure that everybody comes home at the end of the day. And regardless of the industry, regardless of what it is, that's kind of the end goal of everything is, how do we fix this? How do we make it out through this? And, learn from it and keep going.
Yeah. So it's an analogy that we use oftentimes in the industry, right? MSPs are firefighters, right? They are
every
constantly
single day.
fighting fires.
Every day.
How, in what you've seen across your experience, what is something that you guys are doing now to kind of help with that aspect with MSP as a service? Yeah,
for sure. And that kind of comes to just some of the areas, right? And that is, as we were talking about earlier, cultivating that experience for an MSP to really kind of help a customer, right? And one of the first things that I always like to think of is consistency. And so when we think of consistency, it could mean a couple different things. For me, it means that when that customer calls in, they know every single time they're going to get perfect support because you understand their business. You know what software they're using. You understand everything they do every day. And so when you become consistent for them, that trust is built. And that carries through every single time. And so when you continue with that consistency, when we think of MSP as a service, how we help with that is we can help you with, some of these next things I'm going to talk about, like availability and some of these others, but we can help you with the software, right? We can help you with your staff. We can make sure that you don't go into a customer and you don't know what EDR they're using or what platform they're using, because you have a consistent message that you give to your customers so that you can always help support them quickly and to the point. And that's just kind of one. And the next thing is availability. And how we help with availability is, and I'm going to break availability into two things because this is really important for me. Availability is making sure that when your customer does call in, you're there, right? And how we help with that is knock doc. And so if you're here, at the Beyond event, come on down and see us and we'll talk about it. But essentially, we have the support that you need 24/7. We have a service desk, we have a knock, and we have a SOC. So for you to become available 24/7, we're there for you. And that allows you to be able to do this next part of availability, which I think a lot of MSPs forget about. You as a human need to be available for family, friends, events, and all of these other things, right? Having somebody support you allows you to become available, which is where I see a ton of MSPs get burned out. I've sat in a lot of rooms where they're just burned out because they have to do so many things that they didn't need to do.
Yeah. Listen, I was one of them.
There you go.
I sold my business at a point of burnout, which I don't recommend.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. And it's very easy to get there because you get so heads down and you want to do the right thing for your customer, and that's great. But just know that there's help. There's always help down a road here for you. And the last thing is proactivity, right? It's having all those other two pieces, but then let's not forget about, we want to make sure that the customer knows that we're here for them, right? We want to help them with their growth. So if they're an accounting firm, they might use software today that maybe they can improve with AI, right? AI is the big topic now. Is how can we help them improve? Can we give them software that can help them improve? And so maybe we put a plan together for them that'll help them as a customer grow and be able to bring on more business. What people think a lot of proactivity is QBRs and just business. Oh, let me review your tickets with you and all of that. Be there for the customer and help them grow. And that'll really help all the way across. So those are just a couple things that I always like to think of. Yes.
To your point, right? I think that being able to really highlight availability as not only on a business avenue, or aspect, but also on a personal aspect as well. I think that we hear from so many MSP partners, especially those that are under a certain revenue, trying to figure out how to grow. And there's just a lot of, in my opinion, bad information of what they need to do.
Agreed.
And that can be in ranges of this illusion of tools and widgets will solve their problem.
Rather than plenty of them out there, right?
right. Rather than education and understanding and tooling something to your own experience, right? And being able to compete in your level and not attain things at a different level when you're not ready for it.
Exactly.
Whether that is experience, whether it's that one client that you really think you need, things of that nature, because we've all had the time where we've taken on a bad client, and bad client meaning either A, culturally fit, or B, bad client because you weren't ready for it. And it just sucked all the energy out of you. And you didn't realize that you had a bad dollar for a good dollar, that you could have had service for other clients, right? And profitability. But I do want to circle back on something that you mentioned with Ryan being calm, right? And being able to say, hey, he can help level set a lot of things. And I will say that, from working with you on the vendor side on a lot of the products that we used to use in the past to even now internally, I have seen that leadership in regards to where there's no more of this is how we used to do things,
right?
Onus on it, and being able to say, there is a better way to do this, and being able to challenge that internally versus being able to, as you were with external partners and things of that nature, has been such a great view of leadership, right? And I say that in particular in leadership because sometimes we may be in a position where it may be uncomfortable. It may be to a point where a lot of people have been flowing through status quo, but nothing changes without being able to question why is something the way it is, right?
Exactly.
And so to that point, for us, right, it's a whole new endeavor that we're on right now, right? For full transparency, for those that don't know, Summit Holdings is the company that owns MSP Owners Group, which is what I'm CEO of, and then MSP as a service that is powered by NocDoc, which is the company that was acquired back in November by Summit Holdings. In March by Summit Holdings. And to the point of, you always hear acquisitions in the news, in the media, and there is time, effort, and ability to synergize all of those. Can you tell me a little bit about just the experience of synergies and acquisitions and how you approach those?
Certainly.
And how can someone look into that where, again, an MSP might be trying to synergize with a contractor or a subcontractor, or maybe outsourcing their service desk or outsourcing their piece of business and trying to make it as much of their identity and culture as possible, but still being able to bridge a gap of conversation, collaboration, and for the most part, a client experience.
For sure. Yeah, and we can even use ourselves as the example, right? And you just brought up this whole scenario of Summit Holdings, MSP as a service, MSPOG. We had to make sure that the model fit, right? And so that was the acquisition for your Prodigy Techs and for Cool Technology. We can talk a big game, but until you actually put it down and you actually focus on it and make sure that it works, that is one step that we took, right? And that was the only way to know that what the path that we wanted to take was the right one to take. And it's being able to provide the consistent message across even our MSPs that we can really define how do you make your day better, right? What can we do to synergize all of that and say, okay, start at the MSP, make their lives easier. From that, you now can start to wrap in the rest of the clients because now your message becomes the same across the board. So when you're thinking of contracts or you're thinking of pricing, which is always that tough discussion, right? It's what do I charge for this? Well, it's a nonprofit or it's this or it's something. When you start to bring in yourself internally and say, okay, here's what our pricing model should be across all of our customers, and then kind of go from there versus, oh, I'm going to charge this for this or that for that or this for this. And just kind of changing your mindset a little bit of even simple things like that. Other things that you can make consistent, right? Using certain verbiage in contracts. Don't talk about specific products, talk about technology or talk about packages and things of that nature, so that you can become consistent on even your messaging out to an actual customer that goes across the board. So depending on like what areas you're looking for to help kind of synergize everything, it's all going to start with you first, making sure that you feel comfortable with everything you have. And just to bring up one of the other things that you mentioned, which was, how do you, maybe an MSP, how do they become more comfortable? Focus on a single vertical, right? Take that as maybe the first initiative so that you can hone in on your skill set, so that what I experienced a long time ago was a lot of MSPs are technical people that are trying to become salespeople. Perfect. It's okay. We can get you there. And we do that every day now as MSP as a service. But the idea of being able to talk about the same thing makes you more comfortable in a room, because you don't have to question yourself because you've said the same message 3 or 4 times, and being able to kind of talk about that. And just, being able to convey that message out, that helps you. So practice on a vertical, focus on that same message, learn their software, be able to have that speak is probably a really good way to kind of hone in on your own skills. And then that will convey down into the customers, because that's a really good way to talk to them, because you feel comfortable with all of those ideas.
So interesting. I'm listening, I'm hearing what you're saying. Mm-hmm. And what I keep going back to is what you said previously, which is availability.
Yeah, for sure.
Which in regards to an MSP, especially a leader in an MSP, we're talking about presence,
that's right?
Like, that's right. So you have to be able to be present in order to continue to develop your leadership, to learn new skills, to focus on the customer, on sales, on those other aspects that you may not have in your tool set at the beginning, right? So I'm going to put you on the spot. He's like, oh boy.
It's funny because I had a question for you. So
here we go.
Now that you have literally moved over to utilizing MSP as a service as your back end, mm-hmm. do you feel that you have had that presence now within your life? And if so, what have you done with it in terms of developing your leadership?
Oh, that's
very, very thoughtful.
I'm going to take notes on this one.
Dropping the mic.
As Nancy does, and that's an inside joke for you. Those ask me at TechCon what I'm referring to. But to your point, right? Like we had the opportunity to implement MSP as a service under Prodigy Techs and Cool Technology Group, and for all the MSP owner groups, MSPs. And I'll speak specifically to Prodigy Techs. Being able to kind of giving a little bit of history for those that have just tuned in or just started following us. But over the last 18 months, prior to this year, 18 months to that point, I kind of had explained some of the difficulties that we had trying to alleviate and delegate work that you shouldn't be wearing all those hats, and being able to really focus on an ability to ensure that you're delivering not only the excellence to your clients, but also being able to stay present in your own life, right? And so what would end up happening is during those 18 months, it was very difficult to attain to that. Now, moving into where we are now, being able to, as Ryan say, find something that fits, right? And that can actually be synergetic. And so we had the ability, once we got acquired, to pilot MSP as a service, because as Juan Fernandez likes to say, we were the true experience centers.
That's right.
We were acquired to demonstrate that this is how you are able to synergize MSPs after acquisition, but also here's how you synergize backends so that they all do work as the same. And so to that point, being able to leverage it, it'll be a year to the date tomorrow of this recording that we've been able to do so. And so what I can tell you is that the difference between then and now is, there is not so much of day-to-day involvement anymore. Client conversations are easier because now there are managers available to dive into those conversations. Being able to have those that are experts in what they do, rather than, I'll have to find time to go ahead and take care of that. I'll have to wait till after 5 o'clock because I'm busy throughout my 9 to 5, dealing with client issues, dealing with employees that may need help with education. I am their manager as well to help educate and guide them through their career path, because it's unfair to them for them to just stay stagnant and not invest in their career paths on that side. So being able to now allow for that service delivery not to be a main portion of what I do, but also, to your point, how do I step into a much more intention of being a leader for everyone in the space? Because to me, and this is a phrase I use quite often, internally, externally, and through all our day, is that employee experience drives customer experience. Customer experience will always drive the success that will always go 360 and circle back. And so that has allowed me to really dive in and focus and be able to really experience and not only express what I can do as a leader, but also hopefully generate that next leader in them so that they can go ahead and pass it on. So it's the proverbial trait that phrase that I like to use is, it is my obligation as the elevator has risen to send it back down to bring somebody up with me, whether that's representation, whether that is being an ally, whether that is someone who's listening to this and watching it because they've gone through so much information and they just don't know how to start. And now they happen to hear my words, your words, those on the podcast, Ryan, everyone else, to be able to say, you know what? I think they're onto something. Let me go ahead and do a couple of episodes in the backlog. Hey, let me go ahead and see who they follow. Hey, where are they at? Oh, they know this other person. And because that's how I started, and that's how I was able to develop and be able to give back and develop that portion of getting not only time back for myself to be able to give back, but also to allow for the customer success to arrive because my employees are now that more invested.
So what I'm hearing is you've gone from a place of being reactive in your, not just obviously your day-to-day, but in your leadership, and saying, where can I be intentional? Where can I start to actually not just develop myself as a leader, but also pay attention to what my team needs and what my community needs at the end of the day?
Yep. And being able to structure those things now. Now there are one-on-one meetings I have with my team where I couldn't do that before. Having a team huddle every morning to ensure that if they need help, there's an opportunity and a avenue for them to feel safe to be able to ask those questions, ask for help. And then really just joining forces and being able to truly work through and run through, because everyone isn't a leader in their own fashion and they're able to take that piece and move on with it as well. So, but to that point, my question for you that I was going to ask, because, Ryan had mentioned about, there's the ability of synergies and figure out there's a fit and really trying to, how do you drive the mission forward on being able to, you may have, an island of misfits toys that you're trying to piece together to run that. And obviously in your previous role, you were responsible for growth and marketing and sales of that organization after you did so. How was that experience in the realm of being able to step in as that leader, right, and helping them grow into that avenue? Because you joining in on that role, they had the confidence that you knew what you were going to be able to do. But you now had the ability to take them even further. How was that experience, and how did you work on those synergies? And what were some of those things you had to kind of figure out to help them grow, maybe against maybe their status quo, but also to what you felt should be the next step of that MSP's journey?
That's a great question. So I think that for me, I've always leaned on what makes me uncomfortable, because that is the area where I need to grow the most. And so then being able to kind of have the time and the presence to be able to turn that around and see where somebody else uncomfortable, because you can tell. And so because of that, it's like, how can, bringing back intention, how can I be intentional about allowing someone to grow safely into those areas that they need to? And that goes all across the organization. That's top down and even within the community itself, right? There's tons of MSPs that we've talked to, and I'm sure you see this as well, where you can tell that something makes them uncomfortable. Sales isn't natural to us most of the time, and that is incredibly uncomfortable. Public
By
speaking,
far.
I mean,
By
I
far.
was not like this, right? Like, it has taken work to get to this point. And so it's one of those aspects where if it makes you uncomfortable, it's an area for growth. And that's where you kind of have to lean in on, and having, people along your side that help you, that have a calm presence, that have been there, done that, or are just safe to be around to allow you to grow, is something that I feel is something that has to be in place in order for that growth to happen.
Now, Ryan, one of the things that MSP as a service has the ability to do is help MSPs co-sell. Correct. And have the ability to help cultivate that experience. Exactly. Can you share a little bit about how that approach has been developed, not only on the co-selling side, but like how that experience for an MSP going into MSP as a service has an augmented help to be able to demonstrate what they can do to that end user, that prospect, for them to be able to close?
Yeah, so it really comes down to the experience, and it's Michael Amiri that we have on our team that has years and years and years of experience of being a fantastic sales leader, not just a salesperson. And having that comfort level of being able to bring him onto any kind of customer call that you have. It could be the first time that you as an MSP are on a sales call. He will make you feel comfortable. Just doesn't matter. He's got a southern draw and he's got a very calm voice and it works. And it's the comfort level. And once you kind of understand the products that you're going after, the people that you're going after, that really helps, because when you have that conversation, you're talking about, again, that consistent message that comes across. And so how Michael works it is he looks at what the customer is, if it's a certain type of customer, brings in the aspects that they might care about most. So takes a look, does a little research and says, oh, okay, it's a law firm or an attorney, something that we want to work for. Have some focal points on what that customer actually does, so that makes sense for them. And then you'll start to see the spark in the MSP that may not have existed just yet. And because, again, just like I mentioned a little earlier, 9 times out of 10, an MSP is a technical person that wants to spin up a business. Fantastic. Love the idea. Love the entrepreneurship. Love it. And sometimes they need help with the sales side. And so having somebody in your corner, which is MSP as a service, let us wear that shirt for you. We'll put our shirt on, we'll put your shirt on and just walk you through that process and make you understand, here's the areas that you don't want to get stuck in. Talk about these certain areas. Don't get stuck in a pitfall. Yes, the customer may have had bad experiences. Don't focus on that. Focus on how your product, your services are going to help them improve. And it just kind of spins the conversation around. If you find yourself focusing a lot on pain and suffering, you stick to that. And that whole conversation doesn't seem to work out too well. So being able to kind of flip that around and bring it back to positive is really a good path to take when you're talking to a customer like that. And that's how the MSPs start to see it. And once they can learn it and they see it in real world, it really helps. Because we can all do this in a room. We can all see this on a whiteboard a million times. But until you actually see it and you see that customer light up, it never really hits home.
It's interesting because especially like having been an MSP and then having been on the other side as a SaaS provider, I guess, for MSPs, you can definitely tell where people are uncomfortable, right? And when you're uncomfortable, you're not fully present. Right. So when you're not fully present, you're not able to ask the right questions. You're not even able to think. Like, your brain is just so far off the path in terms of what are the questions that I can ask. So like literally being more comfortable in the chair to get curious and ask the customer the right questions is where you really want to go to. And you can't do that if what you're worried about is being reactive as possible. And most people handle that in the sense of like, what are the technical things? Because that's where we're
exactly
comfortable.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's where it's like, if you kind of take a step back, allow yourself to just get curious. That's it. You just leave with the fact that you might get a no and be okay with that, but get curious. Most of the time, that's going to lead to a much better conversation. That's going to lead to maybe even a closed sale. But that's where the difference is. And it's about comfortability and getting to the point where you have to go through some no's in order to get to a yes, and being comfortable with it. Like, exposure therapy is amazing when it comes to that.
So, I feel like I just sat through a Ted Lasso episode. So be curious. But no, to that point, right? I think highlighting on Be Curious, and I'll highlight a story as we kind of wrap up here, is so Mike Amiri met with one of our clients, and as we did our intro, they had a conversation. Golf came up, and as anything with golf with Mr. Amiri, and so it was a great conversation. That was the end of that. Went on an onsite, and the client went, "Hey, here's the field for St. Augustine," and and I'm not a golfer. So I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I just see the green, right?" And so he's like, "Take a picture and send that to Mike." And so I took a picture of it, sent it over to Mike, and Mike says, "Hey, tell that client he's got what's the address? We're gonna send him a surprise." And what Mike did was he sent him a Masters hat that he wear. And so he had asked me, "Hey, did he receive it?" And I was like, "No, I don't think he got it, whatnot." And so a couple colleagues of mine who was the referral for this client said, "Hey, not only am I visiting this client," and he says, "Hey to everybody, but I'm having him wear our hat because it's not as nice as the Masters hat that Paco went ahead and his team got him for whatnot." And they had he took the picture, had the Masters hat. And so it just shows you that not only was that cultivation of that experience, but then I got a text from the client that says, "Hey, I just want to let you know that from signing with you, because this was a point where they didn't know if they needed managed services,
Right.
to now being a client for life, because they were like, we really appreciate the attention to detail, not only on just services, but our lives and
Right.
what we actually care about." And that's where you truly get that client experience, and you have the ability to have turning those into fighting champions. Fighting champions allow for you to find success in your own business and moving forward from there. But
Exactly. And that's that last point that I made, which was the proactivity, right?
Yeah.
And that's once you get to that level and that customer feels comfortable and they know you're there for them, they're going to know that you're going to be there for them, right?
Yeah.
That's the answer that always comes around. So just stay present with them. Make sure that you're there. It doesn't always have to be a sales talk. It doesn't always have to be technical. Just check in. It's okay.
no, I agree. Well, Mr. McGill, I appreciate you coming out here.
Thank you for having me.
I know it's we kind of roped you in yesterday, but I thought it was a great
Anytime.
conversation.
I'm here. If you guys have questions, let me know.
Yeah, and if you don't know Ryan, I would definitely reach out to him. But what's the best way for them to reach out to you, learn a lot about MSP as a service?
Yeah, just Ryan at MSP-AAS.com. So Ryan at MSPasaservice.com.
Awesome. Perfect.
Simple enough.
Great seeing you again.
You too.
Nancy, any lasting words before we sign off here?
No, I'm excited to have seen Ryan again, and good reunion.
Awesome.
Onward and upward.
That's
Perfect.
right.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you all obviously coming on to the episode here as we record live at PAX 8 Beyond over at Salt Lake City. And appreciate all of you tuning in. If you'd like to see more of this, head over to the video podcast platform, youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. That's where we host the video podcast. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and you'll be notified whenever a new episode is available and ready for viewing. If you'd like to take us with you on the go, head over to MSPUnplugged.com, and you'll see all the various podcatcher apps that we are available on. We have a few of those examples: Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify, to name a few. And most importantly, one of my favorite things to talk about is TechCon Unplugged is coming up September 17th to the 19th. We will be at the Crown Plaza in Chicago. So head over to TechConUnplugged.com, get your tickets, and we will see you there. But most importantly, from all of us here, we appreciate you, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.
I'm gonna make this into a little song so I can dance to it.